Yeah, watch it. Got the riffs on the track. Vet on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamar. Wow. Yeah, the statistics shows my ballistic flows generate big cake, not big candles that spaghetti them O's. I'm so ready, I done pack my clothes. I'm so heavy with no D, how them boys. I rock them gators more than gun deep boys. I'm the real raw deal, y'all just still decoys. Like
So, and it transformed from fiction into realism, even though it is a work of fiction.
For that green light before break, no, not from New Orleans, but can you see me, homie? Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check, a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check, a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check. Check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Yeah, look around, left, right, up and down.
So in a time before everything starts, the second book kind of gets into the very beginning of it, and then the third book kind of ends up the first phase of what happened.
My target audience when I wrote it, in my head was basically teenage girls that had read Twilight and were sorry that it was over.
From this reason. And they are animals being arsenic.
But you're the bus driver. Right. Yeah, there he is. I was like, that's cool. It's like it was made for it.
Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check, a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't.
Welcome to another great show of APN TV Media. We got a lot of store for you today. As a matter of fact, get this. He has two books, working on a third one, I believe. His name is Steve LeBel. He has a book. Now, the book, get this, the book is titled The Universe Builders. Say that right, The Universe Builders. And, oh, you heard of it? Yes, you heard of it. Yes, he's won many awards for his creative writing. His books is just outstanding. When we get into it, it's going to blow your mind because we're going to ask him some questions here. It's very interesting. We also have a video, a video trailer or a media trailer of his books coming up shortly also as well. Okay, but first of all, how you doing, Bob?
Good, Stephen. How about you?
Whew, I don't know. I'm sweating right now.
All right. Well,
I guess this age is always doing it. You know how that goes. And that's a shame, Michelle. I do it every time, don't I? Every time.
Shirt with my name on it.
I ought to call
there
you
we
Coach.
We're going to do it.
Guess what, everybody? She made me walk up the stairs instead of the elevator in the building today.
One step
at a time. That's why I'm still sweating. But anything you got for us today in the political arena?
Well, it's interesting what's happening. We know Trump's pretty much going to be the Republican nominee, and Hillary Clinton's probably going to be the Democrat, but there's still some questions about how this is going to happen, so we'll see.
I know, I was looking at it, I'm like, man, we just fell all out in the dirty politics, huh? But then again, I'm starting to wonder, do we even have a government system? Because everything is just, if you go through history, all the way back from Henry VIII, or Henry the Seventh or something like that, that when, and in France, when they did all this revolution took place on the people.
Right.
Because everything was all upside down. But when you start hearing the dirty laundry of their past, and you're like, what the? And yet they're the nominees. I was like, how did they get from their dirty past, all these scandals, every stuff that's going on, to become nominees? So it's like the lesser of the two evils, so to speak. I'm not putting it there like that, but you got to admit, if you got two of them up there that they're choosing them, but they don't like them, does that make sense?
Not really, but
Lesser of the two evils.
That's what it's called. Lesser of the two evils. Says, hey, I don't know. It's like, I don't like you, but hey, I'll still elect you as president. And then everybody said, back then, that's what said, oh, we love to come to America, land of the free and home of the brave. Now, when they're
You have to withstand the president.
but think about it. They're watching this role taking place. So if I'm overseas in Europe somewhere, I'm going, what the? Because we're supposed to be that, America, United States, land of the free, home of the brave. And we're over here airing out dirty laundry of our own future presidents. No.
there's plenty of dirty laundry about the one we got in the White House now. Hey.
It's crazy. But the reality of it is, that's no example that we should be showing. If we're supposed to be some quote-unquote police state, for the nations, that is no example how to behave.
It's almost instead of a presidential race, maybe a media race.
Maybe so. How about that? I like that. And you know what? And on that note, we'll be right back after this. Very good.
That's all I'm gonna do. Yeah, watch it. Got the words on the track. That on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamont. Wow. Yeah.
Welcome back. And now, without further ado, I want to introduce you to a dynamic Steve LeBel, and it's capital L-E, capital B-E-L.
Thank you.
Hey, you're blowing my mind with your books. I mean, yes, we saw the first one, but I happened to do a little sneak peek to look at your second one. And then I found out you have a third one coming.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, very interesting. And in the awards that you have been given, I hate to say just one. I mean, you earned it.
Thank you.
You earned it. And that's what I want everybody to know that. He earned his award. You just don't, it's here, put on a drop of a hat, so to speak. But actually, he had, you know what? I'm going to tell you what. Let me sit him down. Oh, we can wave to everybody and say hello and how you doing. Yes. We're going to have a seat. I want everybody to enjoy yourselves, and let's have fun.
Let's do it.
Go. Oh, go ahead. And she got me sweating because those stairs was kicking my tail.
They're going to kick it on the way down, too.
Yeah, they're going to kick me down. Just go ahead and kick me down the stairs. Kick me down the stairs. But that's okay because now I know something else about you. Since this has been doctors and all that throughout these past months on the show, which is very interesting. I mean, it just happened that way. Then we had the celebrity guest, Gregory Brock. But then all of a sudden, now we have, you were on the board, or the president of the board?
Actually, I was president of a hospital for 17 years.
President of the hospital. Oh, see? Yes. See? And now he's hearing me about to get kicked down the stairs.
At least we have a president in the house. We have the president in the house if something happens.
Excellent.
Who writes fantasy now, so be careful.
Oh, I'll great fantasy. Hey, Steve. Oh, I'm sorry.
Was your book, Steve? Was your book aimed at a particular audience?
Actually, I originally wrote it for adults, and but I wrote it in relatively short sentences and made it very easy to read. And it turns out it's about 4th grade, 7 months, so it's very easy to read. But it's since I targeted adults. And it's sort of written in layers, it's very easy for children to understand. And I've talked to a number of adults who tell me I don't see how a young adult can get as much out of this as is in it, but they still seem to love it because wherever they happen to be, you know, there's still a lot of layers that they enjoy.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, so you can read it at any age and find enjoyment to it.
Yeah, so far, that's my experience, yeah.
That's really good. Not many people have written novels like that.
In fact, one of my biggest fans just turned 91. He's read it 3 times and bought 7 copies to give away for presents because he likes it so much.
Oh, that's great.
That's wonderful. Yes.
You know, I was going to ask you that. Do you do exactly? I mean, what's the majority of the audience? Is it more of the children that's reading it, or is it more the adults? You have a huge fan base, okay? But it's kind of interesting. I'm kind of curious who's reading it more.
Actually, it's almost impossible to tell who bought your book, right? Mm-hmm. But the one clue that I have is people on Facebook who contact me and tell me they like the book.
Yes.
And interestingly, I was expecting it to be more the young adult, but it's older women. Predominantly,
really?
Yep. Because it seems to resonate. Apparently, that group is also a large buyer of young adult fantasy. Okay.
Very good.
So that's been my experience. Although I find a full range. It appears to be kind of a bubble right there on the older woman category.
He has some groupies.
Yeah, that's sweet. When I was going. We were all kind of baffled because I'm going, oh my God, is it a children's book or is it a preteen or is it adult? I'm going, okay, the vernaculars of the book itself, and I'm going, well, he's not using really too much of big words, and it's very easy for everybody to read, but to comprehend what type of book it is. Which direction is the book is actually going? The demographics, which way it's going? And I'm glad you said that because that's kind of interesting. I said, wait a minute, it seems like more adults are reading it, but probably adults after they read it, they give it to their children.
Yeah.
Is that about somewhat? So it keeps the book in circulation, even within the family.
Yeah. A number of
That's
folks
excellent.
buy it actually to read to their children, which kind of
family
surprised
book.
me. Yeah. In fact, one of the interesting things about it was when I wrote it, I thought of it as science fiction, maybe fantasy. And then the more I thought about it, okay, it sounds a little more like fantasy with some science fiction. But and one of the things that you have to do as an author is you have to choose a genre. Okay, you just can't say it's this and this and this and this because by the time you do that, people don't know where to put you. Okay, in bookstores and things like that. So you pretty much have to choose something. And I found out actually as I was getting the awards that they put me in a category. And the category was young adult fantasy. That's where the book seems to be the strongest. It wins the awards there. I've got some in fantasy, some in science fiction, but young adult fantasy is just very strong. Very strong.
I'm wondering, and I think I'm open this door for today's topic because one of the things, but that's where I'm going to ask you this. I know I'm throwing everything in left field. I'm like, what? You're asking the author to pick today's topic? Pretty much, because I'm going to ask the question, if it sound a roundabout way, this is what I wanted to do, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I believe in the team effort, you know. I wanted to consider it as science, fantasy, mythology, okay? And the reason being for science, fantasy, I think people understand where I'm going with this, because I didn't want to. I don't want to alarm anybody. I mean, the book is excellent, okay, and I didn't want nobody to take it to a fantasy to being something. Think outside the box of just religion. Please, just think outside the box. When you read it, you'll go, oh, yes. You don't have to go and grab some a Bible of your choice to find out what you're looking for. It is not that type of book. This book is a fantasy, but it has Scientology in it. It's, very creative. It gets you thinking. But and I was wondering, I said, but think like this at a younger age? And I said, well, kids got iPads and tablets and stuff. I said, so they can do, and the creations that they come up with now is astronomical. So then I said, wait a minute. Because it involved gods, I said, you know what? When I was in computer class, in my earlier years, when I was in computer class too. When I was in computer class, when they have it, we have little square. We used to call those things before CDs, and we have now travel drives, thumb drives, but floppy disks. We had floppy disks and those little square hard diskettes, okay, and we had to type codes in. And my teacher told me, he said this. He said, we are like little gods, and this right here is a larger God. And I looked at the computer, and we all looked at him, and we looked at our computers. I'm like, what is he talking about? And then I started thinking about it. It's the level of knowledge. The level of knowledge. And when you comprehend the aspect of the level of knowledge, everything has a certain level of God. Is that interesting? So, and it doesn't matter what Bible you pull out or whatever, but actually, that's why it says mythology, and I add the science, along with the fantasy.
Well, Stephen, why don't you have Steve give us a quick synopsis for our viewers of his book, so that we can kind of take the concept and further discuss exactly. I think that is an excellent viewpoint.
No, it was a question though. What do you think about today's topic?
The idea of, I'm not sure if I understand your question.
All right, you know what? I tell you what. Go ahead and give us a synopsis of it.
Okay. Basically, it's a humorous fantasy about a young god who just graduated from God school, and he's out to build his very first universe. He's got his dream job. He's working for the business. Of course, that's what gods do in this world. Is they work for the business, and the business, of course, builds universes. That's what gods do. And so basically, he manages to get his dream job, and they assign him his cubicle, and he's getting out his equipment, beginning to work, only to find out that the kid in the next cubicle is one of his school rivals. They've had a fight going on for years, and this kid, every chance he gets, sabotages Bernie's universe in the hopes of getting him fired. But of course, all the stuff is going on the universe, which is causing all kinds of problems in the universe, right? So it's like a story within a story, and it's kind of an interesting and humorous way of telling it. But the god Bernie is basically he's not the brightest god in school, but he tried hard. He means well, and he's got some things going against him that make it kind of a challenge. For example, he doesn't understand why, if a species doesn't turn out quite the way that they should have, he just doesn't see why he should blink them out, get rid of them, start over again. like the other gods would do, because the gods, they're building that universe for a purpose, and any failures, get them out of the way. Build it right. Bernie thinks that these things actually probably even have feelings, and maybe more. So the story is it's a story within a story as he examines questions and gets challenged with the building process. Yeah.
See? Respect case. Thank you. I appreciate that. He answered it. That's fantasy. No, is it science, fantasy, mythology?
Well, and it
Very
reminds
interesting.
me a bit of the Greek and Roman gods. Had you considered that as you were writing it?
Not honestly, not really. Only because the Greek and Roman gods weren't really in my mind as universe builders.
Where did you get this idea?
I was thinking of Prometheus.
Where did you come up with this idea? It's a fabulous, off the wall, you made it happen idea.
Actually, I've had the idea for 40 plus years, about 45 years. It started back when I was in school at Michigan State, actually. And one of my classmates was having a bad day, and he was griping about this, and everything seemed to be going wrong, and he was blaming this and blaming that, and he turned to me, he says, I think God must have got a C- in Universe Building 101. And it just stuck with me. It's like, because I got thinking, well, he seems to, that would require that there are multiple gods. If there's multiple gods, and they're all studying universe building, like maybe the one that he's talking about wasn't the A student. Who was the A student? What kind of universes do they build? Who are their parents? How do they get along? What do they do for a living? It starts raising interesting questions, doesn't it?
Yes.
So that's really the genesis of this, not the Greek and Roman gods per se, just really that idea building into its own world. What if there's more than one God? That's the question.
Thank you. That's what I was getting at. More than one God. And as a matter of fact, what the Roman gods I was thinking about the movie Prometheus, but at a younger preteen level. Because Prometheus, they were, science. They were out there looking for the person, whoever created us, and they went out to look for it. Okay, so that was different than trying to pray to see. They actually went out as scientists. That's what I said was fantasy, but they went out to venture, and that's why I looked at, especially when I was looking. I was definitely getting deep into your video trailer, which, oh my gosh, was it 1,124 hits, or probably more than that by now, and it was incredible. And I'm like, really? So I started looking at it again and again and again, and I start. Okay, I saw the beginning. The houses. I kept saying, "Is this showing like it's in Sweden or something?" So the houses, and I saw the people working, and then it went, and then I saw the animation where it starts. You start sharing a narrative about the book, and then from there, I know it by heart. I love it. So then. I went from there, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's right. He's got a set for two brothers that are fighting each other, battling. So I said, oh, okay. So this is why I was coming with today's title, okay? And then it went through where, as a matter of fact, to go deeper than your book, it's because the way he was building, but your narrative, your synopsis, when you said it, was great, because the putty, the way he was forming it, putting it together, it was like, oh man, Leonardo DiCaprio, or who was it that the building? One building was upside down. You said he was sitting in a cubicle, and
I don't know.
I thought you were talking about the movie Ghost, where he's making with the putty and.
Inception.
Okay.
Inception is where they had the buildings. You saw the same world, but just different. There was a building here, and Inception, it was upside down, like two planets together. And you had to get the concept, without going overboard, what it could be like if the planets were close together, and how they connected. And this I was looking at with the gods, they were making these world creations. You know, and then you're sitting there and it's like in a cubicle. And I'm like, okay, so you have a god sitting at a cubicle. And that's what brought me to thinking, you know what, think outside the box for a moment.
Well, the book, I find, really does make you think, because it explores the idea that of our universe and the moons and the suns and the stars, and this is all we know as human beings on Earth, and we understand that it is a creation higher than the level we can ever surmise. So was it our God who created it? So are there numerous gods? Are there other planets that have different species? Which everything has been explored throughout our time and our scientists, and that's what really brings the scientific aspect into the book. So it's great for science teachers, children interested
that's what I was looking at.
in that.
That's why I said the fantasy. And I'm glad you put in fantasy, because that way it puts away that notion, like, you know, that we have to find you somewhere in a barn somewhere. You know, go, hey, you know, what's that? I love movies for some reason. Back to the Future. Mm-hmm. What's the guy that the Doc? Is it Doc?
I see a little more Indiana Jones over there.
Oh, yeah, see, we're talking about your book already. So we're giving you credit about your book. That's what we're doing. We're giving you a lot of credit about your book.
Yeah, watch it. Got the verse on the track. That on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamar. Wow. Yeah.
trying to reach is not available. Please call back 19T2. The customer you're trying to reach is not available. Please call back.
Data transfer complete.
The world has turned against this. They have not done it.
Oh my.
There has been...
All right.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
Lay hospitalized in critical condition.
And the premise here was an interesting challenge because how do you write a story about gods and goddesses that have the ability to create universes and create planets and suns and blink them out if they don't like them and things like this? You've got to have a way to challenge them. Okay, you got to make them sweat about something, right?
Yes.
And so what I did was all the gods in this world actually live on a very small plateau. And I also gave them another limitation. That is, they can live forever, and they don't age after they're about 25 or so, which is great. Except the problem is that they can be hurt. They can die if there's an accident or some sort of trauma. Okay, so they have to be very careful. And because they live on this plateau and there's all the wilderness all around and stuff like this, they're terrified of this because that's unknown. They could go out there and get hurt. Yet in this town where they live, everything is very controlled and very safe. Now, the gods, because they're on this plateau, how do they get the stuff they need? Well, they happen to have a unique ability. And that unique ability allows them to kind of reach into the void and grab one of those dimensions that's out there. We got millions of inventions all around us, right? They happen to have the ability to grab one of them. It's like reaching into a tank of fish and grabbing one of those slippery fish and grabbing it. They can open it up, and inside there is a universe. If they move into the universe, all of a sudden their powers become active. There they can create, they can visualize, they can cause things to happen. But they might be able to, for example, create a gigantic sun. They might be able to create a planet, but they still got to make it rotate. They've got to calculate the physics and the arcs and the gravity and things like this in order to get the rotation. So they got to use all the training they had in school in order to make this stuff work. And of course, that's just the physics. Then you get into biology and all the other kinds of things that they've got to do in order to actually make life happen. And then you've got to figure out all the different ways that life comes together. The whole point for doing this is that they don't have any room to grow crops. They don't have any room to manufacture. So they actually create these universes, and they create races that they can trade with. Okay? So if they want a particular crop, they'll create a race of farmers, and then they'll get the farmers working on the crop, and then they trade with them. Okay?
That's pretty cool.
And then they bring it in. So for the most part, the gods are in the import-export business, or I should say the import business. So anything that they need, they basically import it. And they trade by, if that particular race wants gold, they just kind of, here's some gold. You see, because they have the power to give them whatever they want in the universe because they can create it.
So they created their own world.
They've created a lot of different worlds, universes, okay? And that's what the business does. So if you're in the import business and you want to get a new crop because it happens to be selling well in town among the other gods and goddesses, and you've got a grocer that says, if you get me that crop, I'll buy it from you. Then you might go to the business and say, I want a universe like this that will produce this crop. And so the universe will then take it to somebody like Bernie and say, Bernie, build me a universe, and I want this kind of crop produced here.
So you mean it's the gods that are doing the buy, sell, and trade thing?
It's a corporate environment.
Yes, it is.
It's a corporate exactly
world.
like we know and live, except for the players are gods and goddesses.
Yeah.
And aren't we all, like you said?
Yeah. And they all have, and of course, they're working on quality improvement issues, and they've got their own systems for doing things, and they warranty the universe that they've just made, so if it goes bad, the guy can bring it back and say, fix this, because it's still under warranty. This is supposed to produce these crops for 1,000 years, and it's not,
Have you had any adverse reactions from people of certain religious beliefs? Now, I know L. Ron Hubbard was a science fiction writer, and he created the religion of Scientology because he decided that's where the money was. And
I'm not going to start my own church, no.
Have some people suggested that you might, or that you're... No.
That's what we stopped at the very beginning.
Actually, I've had probably 3 pieces of feedback that were negative.
Okay.
But a surprising number have been positive. For example, my first book signing at Barnes & Noble, I had a guy come in who had already read the book because he got it from, he ordered it or a friend gave it to him or something. And he's a priest. And he came in, and this was December, he bought 3 more copies of the book to give as Christmas presents.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I was a little bit sensitive about it, the topic, because I assure you I have absolutely no interest in offending anybody in this. In fact, I've gone out of my way, and if you've read it, you understand I've gone out of my way to make sure that it's not that way. But I like to tickle people's brains a little bit. I like to play with ideas, and I try to do it gently, in a way that causes people to kind of scratch their head. Like Bernie, for example. Bernie in one scene with his creation ethics teacher is having difficulty because Bernie doesn't understand why it's okay to just blink these creatures out if they didn't happen to work right. Okay, Bernie thinks that, okay, set them aside or something, but just try something else. And because Bernie thinks that these are living creatures, they've got feelings, they've got intellect, and the teacher, the creation ethics instructor, is trying to say, no, they don't count, they don't matter. They don't even have feelings. They're kind of like the way humans sort of talk about animals, right? And so I was playing with that idea. Except now we're talking about gods, and they're talking about things like, do they have a soul? And the instructor says, well, no, they don't have souls. And Bernie says, well, if I wanted to give them a soul, how would I do it? And the instructor says, well, you can't do that because we're not really sure what a soul is. And then Bernie says, well, how do you know that we have them and they don't? If you don't even know what it is, and you can't tell me what it is so I can put it in them, how do you know that we have them and they don't, that we're different? And so it's just kind of a question of just talking about the boundaries between, what we think of as absolutes, that people and animals are different. Well, I think it's a matter of degree, really, and I think that's sort of what Bernie is discovering in his own way here. And it's just fun to play with ideas like that.
Yes. And you know what? Steve LeBel, multiple award-winning author. So we'll be right back after this.
Yeah, watch it. Got the words on the track. That on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamar. Wow. Yeah.
But you're like, oh my God, it's incredible. But then one of the myth and that legend about the Achilles heel was that the individual got stopped on his tracks, and he got shot in with the arrow in the heel, but it wasn't the arrow technically that killed him. It was what caused him to freeze at that moment, because according to the movie and according to some of the myths, it was over a woman.
Isn't it always?
Always.
I knew that was coming out.
I want to hear about his other books. The one
and then he went,
up.
ow, my ankle. Yeah, all right. But before we get to the other book, we got a few more questions. Because there was one I wanted to, which is pretty much answered. Like here, it's was there a religious theme that was specific, or did it just fall in the synopsis? But actually, it was a religious theme. Was there? How did you come about to, or is there a religious theme in it? Do you suppose? because I look at as far as like Bernie, I didn't want to get away about the hero and all that, but I wanted to leave it for your viewers and readers. But the religious theme was between good versus evil, light, light, dark, good, evil, gods, the ones more powerful, ones less powerful. It's like, you know what? Now I can ask this one other question. The teachers. Did the teachers have the strength of the gods? They were teachers, yes. Mm-hmm. But what about their level of strength? Is there a certain level?
On the plateau, they're all fairly normal. Okay? Yes. They just happen to live forever. And they don't age. They do actually age a little bit. They continue to grow slightly, and their voice deepens. Their godly aura becomes a little stronger, more intense.
Yes.
But otherwise, they're fairly normal. But when they go into one of these universes, that's where the power gets activated. That's where they have the ability to create from nothing.
I mean, the teachers now, mm-hmm. because you got the students, mm-hmm. and they teach the students how to start creating. Mm-hmm. Is there some point that like the students, they mess up and make mistakes, that the teacher will have to stop it, or from, it's like if somebody was trying to create a volcano, mm-hmm. and it erupts the wrong way, when the teacher's able to intervene. They have the power to intervene and stop it, or something like that.
If you and I are both in the same universe,
yes,
then I could create something and you could eliminate it. Okay, because we each have power.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, that's the problem with Billy and Bernie, because mm-hmm. when they're fighting, Bernie's trying to create this planet because in this world, in this universe, because if he doesn't do a good job, he's mm-hmm. not going to pass his probationary period. He'll lose his job. Okay. Billy, on the other hand,
very good.
is undermining. He's creating volcanoes. He's throwing meteors at the planet. I mean, he's doing all these nasty things to destroy his planet. Now, he could come in and just blink it away, mm-hmm. but he wants to show how incompetent Bernie is. And if he just blinks it away, then there's nothing to show, really. You see, so he wants to show that Bernie shouldn't have this job. He doesn't deserve it. He's incompetent. Look at the mess his world is in. And so he just tweaks it.
Very good.
By creating natural disasters in some sort.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Which in turn causes another disaster or an effect on a species or on the land or even a wind tunnel mm-hmm. will, of course, mm-hmm. just as it would here, create some kind of adverse effect on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, as if they're doing it in their class sessions because they're gods.
Mm-hmm.
It's very good, very good. Yes, very good.
The only thing that the business does is they also produce standardized universes for the kids at different stages. So, for example, if the class that we're in today, and we're kids, okay, is creating oceans, okay? We can't just go in and create a sun and create a planet and then create an ocean because it'll take too long, okay? So what we do is we get a bunch of prefab universes from the business that have already a sun in it and a planet, and then our class is to go in there and, each of us has our own little universe, and we go in and we create our ocean. And then the teacher will come along and grade each of us on how well we did on our oceans. Okay, but see, if I went in and I created the wrong kind of planet, or I made mistakes there, mm-hmm. it's awful hard for the teacher to evaluate my skill in creating an ocean, right? Okay. So the business sort of standardizes all that, and the school is actually one of the biggest customers for the business.
Oh, oh my goodness! So. No, I can't. I was going to ask about the graduation, but I can't. I leave that for the readers. because I was thinking about, you know what? Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, Bernie's brother.
It's not his brother, actually. It's another kid from school.
Okay.
And they've just been fighting ever since Bernie was.
But the other kid's not a villain, is he? He's not the.
Yeah, he's the bad boy.
He's the bad boy.
Yeah, Billy. His name's Billy.
Billy Bad.
Okay.
Yeah, Billy the bully.
Billy. Oh, okay. So Billy is always at it against Bernie all the time.
Yeah.
So I guess we might as well. Would we consider Bernie more of a building hero? Or it's too predetermined.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to call him a building hero as much as just a kid who's really trying to do a good job, do what's right, the best he can. Yeah,
because
and he's being challenged and undermined by someone who's out to get him. And it's a story of bullying. It's a story of overcoming obstacles. It's a story of ethical questions that get asked and answered somewhat during the course of this. And
yes, well, I see that the reason why, because I see that Bernie has his characteristics is more. He's got creativity. Because he is the kind of person that, like you mentioned about the soul and things like that, I'm going thinking, so he's asking these other questions so he can be able to understand something. So Bernie has more feelings in what he's putting into in his work, as well as looking at, versus the other one, Billy being jealous. Because when he's asked these questions, to a teacher who is now has to think about the things that he's asking, because the teacher is very much unaware yet. He doesn't know. And that complexity was from just that part about the soul. Okay? So somewhere along the line, Bernie will be, I guess, throughout your books, he'll be elevating even more so, elevating his skills, that he'll be above and beyond the teachers.
In a maybe a moralistic sense, in the sense that he seems to be evolving. In writing books, there's a story arc and then there's a series arc, right? Okay. In the story arc, you have different things where the character learns and develops during the course of the story, and in the series arc, you've got another higher level that spans multiple books. Bernie's on that arc where he's beginning to ask all these questions, but he's beginning to come up with answers, and he's growing in his conviction that these life forms that the gods just don't care about. They treat them like tinker toys. Okay.
Yes.
They have value, and he actually doesn't want them mistreated, and so. But right now, he's a probationary employee. He has no power. He can't convince other people. But the series arc will give him more power to begin influencing other people as he grows in his own conviction, you see. So it's a maturation process, not in great leaps, because, but in some way of basically allowing Bernie to grow and mature sort of spread the message, get God's thinking a little bit differently about their creations.
We're on the same page there.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know what? Go ahead.
I'm just curious a little bit about the series, because I understand that you have written a book already, but it comes before the Bernie Universe Builder Putty book.
A prequel?
Yeah, actually, this one's a prequel. Interestingly, I wrote this one. I didn't have any intention on writing a second book, but I got so much feedback on it, and people would say, "Look, this is a series. You need to write more. We want to know what happens. And by the way, these are some of the things that we think should happen." Because they're all. And so I wrote a second book, And it's currently, it's been edited once. It'll probably be another month before I get it out. But I put it on a back burner because people were saying they want to see something when Bernie was younger. They want to see an introduction to the world of the universe builders. And so I wrote this, and it's shorter. It's designed to be a fast read. It's literally about 20% the length of this one. It's about 100 pages. And then this one actually, this happens when Bernie graduates from school and gets his first job. The other book that will be coming out probably in October continues about a week or two after this one ends. With this one, I jump back to when Bernie was about 12. And in this one, it's just an attempt to explain to people the world of the gods. And in this case, one of the children, a little girl about 5 years old, has been lost. And the whole town's looking for her everywhere, and they can't find her. And basically, the only place really that's left to look is the woods. And the woods are the last barrier before the unknown territory and all the danger and everything else. And who knows what's in the woods? It's the gods don't want to go there. They're terrified of the woods. And so Bernie and two of his friends that become friends here get together, and they actually go out and search the woods. And it's sort of a story about a kid who does the right thing.
Do you recommend reading that to your viewers to go to that book first and then go to the Putty universe?
That's the intent. Okay. But I mean, this is a standalone book, so you don't need to read this before you read this. But this will give you a little bit more insight into Bernie and his world.
You know, you might discover the 100-page books do well. George Simenon was one of the most widely read authors in the world for many years, and almost all of his books were right around 100 pages.
Interesting.
Especially the Inspector Maigret series.
Mm-hmm. And I know we're about running out of time, but I do have another question, and it relates to the book, but actually, in a way, not. It relates to the artist. Okay. And I encourage everybody, when you get a chance, you've probably seen it on the screen already, that I believe I want you to check out this website at www.universebuilders.com. Okay. Yes, I know it already. You'll find it as astounding, lot of information, and also a lot of and check out the there's a lot of interviews, a lot of awards, incredible. I thought it was 8 awards.
16.
16. Yep. I lost count somewhere, and I said, "Golly, this is incredible!"
I actually won the grand prize from Writer's Digest.
I had stopped. I even printed out. I stopped. I said he's a multiple award-winning author. I'm done.
Won the grand prize from Independent Author Network, INA.
Wow. Yes.
And 4 more goals and you know a bunch of finalist awards, and so it's kind of neat. I'm very pleased with it.
You earned it. You definitely earned it. And your trailer, I love it. You know, I was inquisitive for a while, and I kept looking at it. The more I kept getting into it, the more I had to step back and say, and just watch the sequence that takes its place. But also one more thing is the artist. Who does the drawing of you and Bernie and Billy? And the girl that's on there, and I was trying to place who she was. The drawings. Who does the drawings?
Oh, on Facebook.
Yes, and on your site, and on the and I saw it on the trailer too.
Okay, the ones you're referring to are done with bit strips. It's a connected application through Facebook, and it's all free.
Oh.
And so what you do is you go in, you create a character for yourself, And then they'll give you different kinds of situations, and you can write in the captions, and you can write in, and you can actually take another person, because there's usually space for either one
The
character.
picture of you is actually a scripted picture?
It's a character I've made of me, and the character of Bernie is actually the Facebook profile account for my brother, who let me, use the character allocation for that. And so I just name myself and my brother, and then I have a chance to play with two cartoon figures. I can change the arms in different positions. I can put different words in their mouth. Yeah.
We got to talk. Well, I love graphics. I'm going like, wow, that artist is incredible.
It's all. I'm not doing anything.
See, there we go. Remember the computer being God's?
Yeah.
You see the technology. See, that's where we get technology. Well, anyway, anything else? Okay. Well, you know what? Actually, I would love to have. I'm sorry.
I said it was very good.
Thumbs up.
Oh, that's what I'm
great
talking about.
interview.
Yes. I would love to. Michael, we all would love to have you come back again. And we know you have a third one coming out, or should I say, the second one coming out, second volume coming out. Okay, and I encourage everybody to not only read the prequel, but the main book with the Universe Builders, Bernie and the Putty. I encourage you to read it. Yes, see? I'm shocking to write this. Like, oh my goodness. I say yes. And again, and I want you to go to his website, www.universebuilders.com. And it's Steve LeBel, which is actually Steve LeBel, which capital L-E, capital B-E-L. It's definitely a pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, watch it. Got the words on the track. That on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamar. Wow. Yeah, the statistics shows my ballistic flows generate big cake, not brick candles that spaghetti them O's. I'm so ready, how to pack my clothes. I'm so heavy with no D, how them boys. I rock them gators more than Dundee boys. I'm the real raw deal, y'all just steal decoys like them duck hunters, runners, blowing whistles, making noise. It's official, tell them nizzles, I'm the dizzle, flow sizzle, flow shizzle. I'm off the hizzy, busy signal. I got that hustle muscle for that green like the for Rick. No, not from New Orleans, but can you see me, homie? In mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check attached, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check. Check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check attached, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Yeah, look around, left, right, up and down. Ain't nobody like me. Wrist so icy, colors like iced tea. Them diamonds get pricey. Got rich now, everybody so nice to me. I'm a whiz kid, Doogie Howser. Just like the game, snatch your dame, I'm Bowser. Spit hot flames, stay sagging in my trousers. Even on church day, the preacher like no way. And Miss Jenkins like, Lord, take them demons away. In my headphones, Jesus walks by Kanye. Macking to a chickie, trying to get some kissy kissy. You can nibble on my neck, but no hickey. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check attached, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check attached, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Baby, I'm the bomb diggy. Girls be begging for another chance like I'm Biggie. I run the city, call me P. Diddy. My life's Whoopi Goldberg, it ain't nothing pretty. It's been a long time coming, this ain't happened quickly. Overnight, try more like over and over until the morning light. Steady trying to get it right.